All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome. Thank you for your patience this evening, and thank you for coming out. I know coming out on a Tuesday evening can be kind of difficult, and there's a lot going on this time of year. Things are getting more exciting. We're marching through everything. See what I did there? Anyway, if you don't like bad puns, I'd leave now because I'm very full of them. But let me introduce myself. My name is Mr. Simon Kavitz. Just call me Mr. S. Nobody knows actually know how to pronounce that. And when I was graduating in high school, they just called me Noah when I said that. Don't call me that because, professional reasons, but call me Mr. S. That's fine. But, that's all that we require. I've been with Southeastern for 3 years. So I was first a history teacher. I was actually in the business world for 10 years before I decided to go back to education. Right now I run the dual enrollment and early college programs here at Southeastern. They're a relatively new set of programs. Pretty much early college, high school has existed for about 20 years. I've done some of the research on it, and it's an interesting program, and I'm hoping that you can get something out of this evening for your student. One thing is that a lot of students, I did go to all the freshmen last Monday and kind of just made presentations to all of their shops, their strand shops about the early college program. So this is a very similar presentation to that, but this is mostly intended for parents, right? So this is intended for you to know if your son or daughter should do this program, right? Is this something that is helpful? So let's go through it. Let's get right into it. So what are we going to discuss? Well, a lot of stuff. I hate throwing information in a slideshow like this, but that's unfortunately the best way to do it, right? Usually as a teacher, you're supposed to, make things active and interactive and everything, but well, we don't really have that. This is mostly just information. But that's what you need, information. So let's go through it. So we're going to talk about what exactly these two programs are. So dual enrollment, early college, high school, what's the difference? How do they work? How do the programs work? Well, that's the next thing. Responsibilities and expectations, like what is your student supposed to do in these programs? Accommodations, which is a big topic. Timeline and next steps, frequently asked questions, and then questions and hopefully answers. So I do want you to have a chance to ask me questions that you have on your mind about the program, if this is something that you feel like is going to be appropriate for what your son or daughter is doing. So let's go through it. So what's dual enrollment? So dual enrollment are classes that are taken after school at Southeastern, right? So these are college level classes. Southeastern and Massasoit Community College are partnered to give our students the opportunity to earn college credit before completing high school. So these are actual college level courses. So you are creating a permanent college transcript when you take them. They are also, these classes, if you pass them or if you fail them or if you withdraw, they also reflect on your high school transcript. So these are actual high school classes and they are reflected as such. These happen after school. Massasoit, so we talked about that. Any classes passed count as college credit that can be transferred to almost most state institutions and some private institutions. As I've getting my years up in this program and getting to know more and more about college after this, a lot of private institutions will take these credits, right? At least some number of them. Usually if you're going to a big prestigious private school, well, they'll usually take up to about 12 credits, which is about 4 classes. It also depends what you're doing with your program, but we'll talk about that in a second. These classes begin in the fall of the sophomore year. So that's why we're talking about this today, right? Because signups for these classes are going to begin sometime in the next couple months, right? So I think I will put it out sometime in May or June. And as freshmen, this is exciting. This is your first real opportunity to start taking these classes. So there are limited spots in the program that usually fill, so it's first come, first serve. I do fill up these classes, pretty much almost every single spot every semester. It's high in demand, and it's something that is becoming more and more common, like I said, in high schools around the globe. So obviously, like when we say free college, yes, these classes are free. A lot of people want to jump in on that, right? When I was growing up, I'm still paying for my college education almost 15 years later. So it's expensive, right? It adds up. It's also very time consuming. So we want to make sure that everybody gets this opportunity to take these classes at one point or another. So that's dual enrollment. After school classes, they're college credit. How does it work? So students stay after school between 2:30 to 3:50 p.m. So this is like a usual sport or a usual after-school activity. and you're taking the classes here at Southeastern. So you're not with dual enrollment classes after school, you're not going to Massasoit. You're taking these classes with other Southeastern students here. Then you can either take the late bus home after 3:50, or you can be picked up, or if you're lucky enough to have a car and you're old enough to drive, then you can do that. Great. Classes typically run 2 days a week, so Tuesdays and Thursdays or Mondays and Wednesdays. We're trying to spread it out because we know that some students can do stuff on some days, but they can't do stuff on others. So we try to spread it out, but as of right now, most classes are on Tuesdays and Thursdays. Free snacks are provided to the students. This is a lot like most other extracurricular activities after school. It's a long day. You know, you're either going through an entire day of shop or an entire day of academics, and then you have to take a college class after that, right? It's long, it's tedious, so we want to make sure you're energized, you have something. So it's the usual suspects, you know, Cheez-Its, Nutri-Grain bars, you know, maybe some stuff. I got a nod in the audience, which is great. But yeah, it's the usual stuff that we usually feed the youth after school. But this is good. You know, it's just a good way to, if you don't like it, you know, bring something yourself. Bring a bottle of water. You know, bring something just to get you through the classes after school. We usually offer 3 semesters. So this last line on this slide. So we offer 3 semesters. We offer fall, which is between September to December. We offer spring, which is from January to May. That doesn't sound like spring to me. And then we have the Maymester, or the summer session, which is between May to June. The Maymester are accelerated classes. They're very fast-paced. Usually that's a good time to catch up if you need to take a class and you didn't have another opportunity to take it. But those classes you're condensing something that's 4 months long into something that's 2 months long. So usually those classes will meet 5 days a week or 4 days a week because you're getting a lot more in a very short amount of time. But I will send information about that once the next Maymester comes up. What type of classes do students take? So what are the actual college classes? We try to figure out something for everybody. So the first thing is college success and speech. So college success is not an academically rigorous class. It is simply a way to get used to the college environment. The actual college success seminar is not worth any credit, but it's a way for you to get used to the portal that Massasoit uses. Usually at Southeastern, we use Google Classrooms, which I think a lot of you have, or School Brains. They use a thing called Canvas at Massasoit, which is a completely different mainframe. So college success is a good way to get used to that. It's a good way to learn how to do basic research at the college level. And it's a good way of just kind of getting used to, you know, what's expected of you in college. And then speech is the first semester. The first, you know, obviously making presentations to people like I'm awkwardly doing now. Speech is also very valuable because you're going to be making presentations the rest of your life. Even if your goal is to stick with your vocation and become an electrician, or you want to be a plumber, you're going to still be making presentations, right? You have to talk to your manager. You have to apply for a job. You have to talk to customers and sell your product. You're going, at the end of the day, you talk to people the rest of your life, right? So speech is very valuable in that way because it gives you the verbal way to communicate with other people, hopefully clearly and hopefully better than I am. So that's the first semester, so speech. Second semester, English composition. How do we write? How do we argue within the written form, right? So this is usually about reading a little bit, but mostly it's about formulating your opinions and then putting that out, right? We already do a lot of English in Southeastern, right? You have to take 4 years of it. It's required by the state of Massachusetts. But this is a little bit more advanced, and it takes it at the college level, right? It's emphasizing how do you improve your writing? How do you make it elevated for the next level at the college setting? The third semester, or the third and fourth semester, are interchangeable. We offer Film and Society. I know that seems kind of random, but it's pretty much a film history course. It fulfills a humanities requirement. It's something, we obviously have a media department here, so like a filming and video and performing arts. So Film and Society is kind of relevant to those students. But for everybody else, it's a good way to learn how to analyze things, right? How do we look at the history of film and how do we get something more out of it? So that's kind of Film and Society. Then we offer Sociology, which is a course we don't offer at Southeastern either. Sociology is simply the study of peoples and groups and how do people interact with each other. It's a lot more complex than that. But at the same time, it's something that we don't offer, and it's something that is usually a requirement in most college curriculums. So that's why we offer Sociology. We also offer intermediate algebra. A little bit more on that later. That's something that is not necessarily required for the program. But we do offer other classes, usually once a year or maybe twice a year. We offer stuff like human nutrition. I mean, that sounds like, how do you eat healthy? But it's a little bit more complex than that. It's actually the biology around that. So this is actually a biology level nutrition class that you can take. If you're thinking about going into a nursing program, dental, medical assisting, you will have to take a nutrition class at one point, and hey, this is a good way to get it done early. We also offer personal finance. While you're going to be dealing with people the rest of your life, you're also going to be dealing with money the rest of your life. So this is a good way of getting ahead of that, right? So again, we are trying to extend the opportunities to Southeastern students. So this list is not complete. I like to experiment with what courses we offer. Again, it's just based upon what funding we have and what interests we have among the students. But this is at least the first 4 you see on the list are concrete. So college success and speech, English composition, film and society, sociology. These will always be offered every semester because they filter into the full-time program, which I'll talk about in a second. Why would you take these classes, right? So why would you bother? I mean, isn't high school kind of busy enough as it is? I mean, we already have our students doing shop. A lot of them are involved in sports. A lot of them do extracurriculars. Why would you bother, right? Well, it looks good on a transcript or a resume, right? So one thing that obviously for your academic transcript when you're going to a college, you look really competitive, right? Because you took college level classes. You did something beyond the normal at Southeastern. So that makes you look a little bit better, right? So even if you just do one of these or two of these, it still makes it look like you challenged yourself. The other thing too is that whenever you're going for your first interview, and you could put on your resume, hey, I took college level classes in high school. And that's a good conversation point. Oh, you did? That's interesting. You took college level classes in high school. That's pretty cool, right? So it's something you can put on your transcript and your resume. And so that's a good reason, right? It's a fulfilling experience, right? So if you're not really interested in the practical, some people just like to learn more, and that's okay too. So you're taking these classes because they're not necessarily available at Southeastern, right? This is something that's beyond what you're typically taking here. The other part is that these classes are weighed as AP credit, meaning that if you dwell on them, your GPA will increase, right? So the way that it works is that usually if you get an A in a class at Southeastern, it's worth 4 points, right? 4.0. If you get an A in a college class, you get a 5.0, which averages it into your GPA. So again, it's a good way to make you look more competitive to future colleges, right? And the other thing is the classes transfer, like we said a couple slides ago, right? These classes transfer to you so you can save time and money later when you go to a traditional four-year college. Or if you decide to continue and finish a Massasoit too, that's a good way to get credit, transfer it there. Get ahead, save time, save money. What are the requirements? Just two. Obviously, we want to make these as available to everybody as we can. You need to be in good academic standing. We don't want to cause any harm by having you start college classes when things aren't going well in your typical classes, right? So obviously, your freshman year, grades can kind of be all over the place, right? It's a hard year to get kind of accustomed to everything. So the reason that but at the same time, we don't want to complicate matters for you, right? Get your grades up. As long as you've got a C- in everything, you can take these classes after school. And then you need to have good attendance. One thing is that college professors require you to be in class, and they make no exceptions about that. If you don't show up, you don't turn in an assignment, well, you'll get a 0, right? Now, they're human, right? They're not completely, they're not completely crazy. They're not going to just think, oh, you're absent once you fail the class. It doesn't work like that, obviously, right? You get a certain amount of absences and everything. But at the same time, you have to acknowledge the fact that you're required to be there, right? You're required there to show up every single day to the class, and there's less leniency than there is at the high school. So that's dual enrollment. So that's a lot we can go through a couple questions at the end about that, but these are after-school classes. They're worth college credit. As long as you're in pretty good academic standing, you can start them. There is a test if you want to take some of the more advanced classes called the Accuplacer, and the Accuplacer is pretty much like MCAS. It's English and then mathematics. So as long as you do fairly well in those, you can take the more advanced ones. But the first class speech, anybody can take. So there's no requirement. As long as you're doing well in your academic classes, anybody can start them. Okay, so what's early college high school? So this is the second program. So this is what we call the full-time program, or the program where you go to Massasoit to take classes. So starting in a student's junior year, students take their classes full-time at Massasoit. What does that mean? So during academic weeks, students go to Massasoit to take a full course load 4 classes. These classes replace the traditional high school classes that students would take. So instead of taking your history, your English, your science, and your math here at Southeastern, you're taking at Massasoit, and you're taking whatever their equivalent is, right? So you'll still take U.S. history, but you'll take it at Massasoit. You'll still take science, but you'll take it at Massasoit. Any of those classes are worth college credit, right? So if you pass these classes, and they can be pretty challenging, you'll get college credit for every single one that you pass, right? And then there's also obviously other classes that are not offered through Southeastern that you take through there, like US government or psychology or human growth and development. There's an entire list of courses back there, and I'll kind of go through it in a different slide. But the entire point is that you will be taking extra classes that you wouldn't necessarily get at Southeastern. You also take Spanish at one point. It's a good way to get more accustomed with another foreign language, which is really, really important, right? Because when you're applying to a college, they want to see you speak more than just English, right? They want to see you, because there's a lot of translation, because they want to see you be successful, having more languages helps. So Spanish is also part of the curriculum. One thing is that that's only during academic weeks, right? But during vocational weeks, you're still here, right? We're a vocational school, so our vocational part of our program is super important to us. So while you would be going to Massasoit to take these classes during academic weeks, vocational weeks, you're still here. And then if you do complete the full-time program, you complete all the courses, you pass everything, then the students will acquire an associate's degree by the time they graduate from Southeastern. We'll go through some numbers right now, but yeah, we've had plenty of students get associate's degrees. So there is a realistic path for you to be a college graduate by the time that you graduate from Southeastern. Okay, how does it work? What are the basics? So you report to Southeastern each morning, and then you are driven to Massasoit by bus. So you're required to be in your first academic class here, or you're in your shop by 7:45. The same thing is here. We have the library. You come in the library at 7:45. We put you on a bus to Massasoit. You take your classes there. That's your junior year. Your senior year, you get to drive directly to Massasoit, or your parents can drive you, or something like that, or you could drive yourself. So the entire point is that you get more freedom in senior year. Junior year, though, that's the year that you're kind of under academic probation. We want to make sure that you do well in your classes, right? Because this is a big deal if you're doing the full-time program. So you're kind of being watched, and we're making sure everything goes well. And then in your senior year, drive yourself directly, right? At that point, you've earned it. So you get there at Massasoit around, I would say, about 9 o'clock. So you leave here, well, it's a bit earlier than that, like 8:30. You go about your classes, you eat lunch at Massasoit, and then you are driven back to Massasoit before 2:30. We typically get back by about 1:30, and then there's like an hour of time to study in the library and get stuff done. One thing about the full-time program, there's a lot of freedom to it. Because there is nobody at Massasoit that is hounding them to go from class to class, right? When you're in the high school, hey, it's lunchtime, time to go to lunch. Hey, it's time to go to English class, let's go. Why are you in the hallway, right? There's people here who are constantly asking those questions. When you're at Massasoit, you're treated like a college student for the most part, right? So obviously, if you don't go to English class, you'll fail. If you don't go to lunch, you'll probably be hungry. So the entire point is that you're going to be learning about personal freedom when you go there, right? That's actually a big, valuable part of the program. But you also have to understand, too, that I'm on campus a couple days a week usually, but sometimes I've got meetings here. So the students, for the most part, they bring themselves from class to class. So it's kind of an open time. Obviously, you're going to have a full academic 4 classes during that time, so you're going to be pretty busy. There isn't a whole lot of downtime, but you might have an hour, and then that's the hour when you can go study, or you can go get tutoring, which is free at Massasoit, or you can go get lunch, right? It's kind of up to you. We're not going to tell you what to do with your time while you're there. One thing to keep in mind with the full-time program, too, is that you will have asynchronous work or homework to do during shop weeks, right? So just because you're not going to class during shop week, you still have to do work during your shop weeks, right? And this is usually homework, watching a video that the professor posts, and then doing it that. The reason that we have to do it that way is that there's a lot of stuff that they have to cover within 4 months of the classes. Okay, what does this cost? Nothing, right? Very simply nothing. The only times that we need to charge you is if you need to retake a class. So obviously, if you fail a class or you withdraw, or let's just say that you take a class that's not typically offered through our classes at Massasoit directly, you do have to pay for it then. Usually it's about $180 per class. We have a partnership with Massasoit, so we're able to get the cost reduced quite a bit for you, but just keep in mind that if you fail a class, it's your responsibility to retake it. Okay. Are there any requirements to enter early college? Yes. So you need to be in the same thing as dual enrollment. You need to be in good academic standing, and more emphasis on your sophomore year for good academic standing. You need to take speech, college success, and English composition 1. So there's no way around that. You have to pass those classes to get the minimum requirements done. And then you have to take that dreaded AccuPlacer test and get at least a 268 on the math, or you need to pass intermediate algebra, right? So 268 on the AccuPlacer is pretty hard. It's something that not a lot of students do. But if you get between a 245 to a 268, then you qualify for intermediate algebra, which means you can take that, and that'll qualify you for the full-time program as well. Then students will take art history. This is an old slide, but it should say film and society and sociology during your junior or senior year, or during the summer at one point. So you don't have to take sociology and film and society immediately. You could take those classes sometime during your junior or senior year, and you'd be fine. You do need to complete those 2 classes to get the associate's degree. But responsibilities and expectations, students are expected to do college level work while in both dual enrollment and early college high school. So if your professor says write 5 paragraphs, write 5 paragraphs, right? Your professors put a lot on you. There's a lot of work that, less in dual enrollment, but more in early college high school, where you are self-teaching yourself quite a bit. That's simply because the professors are going at a very fast rate, and they need you to self-teach yourself. So they might say, throw the textbook at you and say, all right, read chapters 1 to 2. Teach it yourself, and then when you come back, there'll be a quiz, right? It's not usually that brutal, but it's something to keep in mind that this does happen quite a bit, where the professors are expecting you to self-teach yourself, especially during those vocational weeks. Attendance is mandatory, all right? So you have to show up. You get 4 absences in classes that meet 2 or 3 times a week. So that's including the full-time program. So you need to show up to class, right? And it's obviously, like, family vacations are great, family emergencies happen, sickness happens and everything like that. I think the biggest thing that you can do during this time is make sure that you're communicating with your professor. If you're going to be out for a week or you're going to be out for a prolonged period, just make sure that you're talking to them. Again, they're human beings, but you still have to keep in mind that they are expecting you to finish a curriculum within a certain amount of time. The classes that take, though, are free across our responsibility, as the classes will affect your high school and college transcript. And then I put this in blood red at the bottom. Failing or withdrawing from a college class might affect future consideration for financial aid. Why is that? So the way that FAFSA works is that if you have taken college classes, you need a 67% success rate in order to qualify for financial aid. So let's say you take one class with dual enrollment, you don't like it, you withdraw, or you fail. You have technically a 0% success rate. So that's bad, right? Because you don't qualify for FAFSA. But obviously, if you go into the full-time program and you fail one class, well, you'll be okay because you'll have like a 90% you'll have like a 90% success rate. So I guess don't get stuck too much of the numbers here, but the entire point is that failing or withdrawing from these classes is a big deal. And so obviously, my suggestion to the students is usually finish out the semester, talk to your professor, see how you can get your grades up, right? So, but at the end of the day, like, that is something to keep in mind here, that, yeah, these are free classes, but there's a big responsibility that comes with them as well. Okay. Accommodations. So at the beginning of each semester, we do review IEP and 504 plans of each student and communicate with their professors what accommodations would apply to their class. So this is with dual enrollment. So we talk, obviously I have a full list of students who are on IEPs or 504s. I will communicate with you, the parents, to see if you want me to give this information to the professors. And then we give them a set of realistic things that they can give to the professors that they can meet, right? So obviously not every single accommodation is going to go to the professor, because some things are just not really fitting for the college environment. But we do come up with a letter. I work directly with the director of special ed, and we will come up with a letter, give it to the professor, and they are required to follow that letter. So keep in mind that that is something that we do pass along in the program. If you do the full-time program, they actually have an office there that you go to at the beginning of the semester, and I'll remind you at the beginning of each semester to get the letter. Technically, that's up to them. Whatever happens at Massasoit campus, like, that's their responsibility. But pretty much any accommodations for any classes that are taken here, I will reach out to you at the beginning of the semester and make sure that that letter is created if you want it to be created. So what are the next steps, right? So we've talked a whole lot about the big picture of the program, but what are the next steps? What are the next things that you need to be kind of thinking about and doing? So if you're new to the program, which you all are, we recommend that your students sign up for spring classes. Again, this is a slide that I probably should have updated. You can either sign up for 2 semesters at this point. You can preliminary question begin in November. This is an old slide, actually, I'm just realizing. So the one thing is that I would sign up for fall classes at this point. So the sign up for the fall classes will begin in May and June. So just keep that in mind that those signups are gonna come out. My newsletter is up there, so is a sign up for that. So make sure that you are signing up for that newsletter. I email, even if the student is on the newsletter, I email the parents and the student just to remind you of this. I only send out 1 email a month, so I don't want to overwhelm your inboxes. I know that you guys get thousands of emails, and it can get really overwhelming. So the entire point is that I will send out 1 email a month with stuff for registration and everything like that. So in the main newsletter and the June one, I'd be on the lookout for signups for fall classes. So this slide is not up to date, I apologize. But the entire point is that you just need to make sure that you are signing up for fall classes. If you are really ambitious, you might be able to sign up for Maymester classes that are starting in May. Not my strongest recommendation to start then, because the classes are pretty difficult. Again, because not because the subject matter is difficult, but you're going at such a hyper fast rate. But I will, if we've got spots left, I will email it to the parents who sign up, or to the parents and students who sign up, to let you know if there are any spots left over. But at the end of the day, this is mostly current sophomores taking these classes, so it might be a good idea to wait for another semester for that. So that's the first thing. So you'll take speech in the fall, probably for most people, and that's great. If you like it, let's say that you like speech, things went pretty well, or you think things are going decently enough, then you can then take the Accuplacer test, right? The Accuplacer we offer at Southeastern about 2 times per year. We offer it during the spring, during April, like around now, but don't worry about the one right now. Then we also offer it in November. The Accuplacer is free of cost. Usually we can offer it during the school day, in case you do need an environment to take it. But we also you can always take it free online, and I can send you the instructions of how to do that. So if you take it online, you just take it from your Chromebook or from a laptop, and there's a proctor comes into a Zoom call with you. They give you a voucher to enter into their system. You do it. You start the test. You take it. They're monitoring you from the Zoom call, just to make sure that you're not cheating. But at the end of the day, it's a pretty straightforward. It's reading, writing, and math. So again, sign up May to June. I would sign up for fall classes for next year. And then in the November, I would take the Accuplacer. And then you can then take spring classes the following January. So that would be kind of the entire point. So part of this is on here, part of it isn't. But the entire point is that you need to take, if you really want to do the full-time program, you need to take speech, English, composition, and take the Accuplacer. To get in your junior year, those are the 3 requirements. So speech, English, composition, Accuplacer. And you can get all 3 of those done easily within your sophomore year. The one thing that I would kind of stipulate here too is that if you don't get the Accuplacer scores, then we will offer intermediate algebra next Maymester, so next time between May to June. So there is plenty of, in case math isn't your strong suit, there is a way to get into the full-time program through that class. So that's pretty much the next steps that I would recommend. Again, read my emails. They usually do a better job than I am right now of explaining kind of what the steps are. But that's the biggest thing, is just making sure that you're on my newsletter, because then I will go ahead and just send out these emails and reminders, everything. I also send reminders in Ms. Weckeser's or the principal's newsletter. So you can always look there for some of these signups as well. Great, so that's the basics. So this is our course pathway. I think that some of you have a physical copy of this in front of you. This is actually already changed. The yellow that you see here is actually changes that we've made in the last year, right? So we're constantly making changes to the program because we want to try to tinker it, make it as best for our students and as accommodating as possible. So the things that you see at the top are dual enrollment classes. So these are classes, again, that you take free at Southeastern after school. Then the middle ones are the classes that you take during the early college during your junior year, and the bottom ones are the senior year. You need to complete, I think, 20 of these 21 classes to get the associate's degree. So you pretty much need to fulfill everything. One thing about this chart that is interesting is that it'll show you what the high school requirement is that you're fulfilling through these classes, but it'll also show you what the elective is for the associate's degree. So if you're not thinking about going to, finishing the entire associate's degree program, but you want to get your associate's from Massasoit, then hey, we've told you exactly what you need to do in order to get the associate's degree. So there's a lot of information here, obviously. Take a look at this. If you have any questions about it, let me know. But we've made some changes. We've changed some of the electives, especially in the second half of the senior year, just to make it as interesting as possible for the students. I've gotten a lot of feedback from my current seniors. So you're probably interested, what's the success rate? Like, do students actually get through this program? This seems like pretty challenging, or this seems like do students actually do all this? So last year we had 22 seniors who graduated with their associate's degree. Very proud of them. They're doing pretty well. 26 of the seniors, we have 26 seniors this year who are on track to get their associate's degree. So they're going to be graduating in May, assuming everything goes well. There are 46 juniors in the full-time early college program right now. So as you can tell, things have grown quite a bit, quite quickly. So again, there's a lot of interest in this program, and that's exactly why, right? Because it's free college, right? It's a good way of distinguishing yourself, learning something new. And there are about 100 students taking dual enrollment classes. That number is not up to date. It's about 120 right now. So again, we have about 5 to 6 classes that we fill up, and that's about 120 students in the after-school classes. And there's a lot of other students who are not put in this list, who have been students who have just gotten a certain amount of college credit and have transferred that to their future institutions. Or I've had a couple of students who are not on here who they've done AP classes or they've done honors classes at Southeastern, and they've been accepted into some really good schools too. And they've just done dual enrollment classes after school. So I think that there's something here for everybody. I love pie charts. Sorry, that's the historian in me. So this is kind of, I polled my seniors last year and just asked them, like, hey, was this terrible? Did you actually like it? And so on a scale of 1 to 5, how did you like the early college high school program? So these are people who completed the program, right? So this chart on your left says, so about 52% said they strongly liked it. That's good, right? Over half said, I liked it. It was great. 35% said they liked it, and about 11% said that they had neutral feelings towards it. So yeah, that's about what you want to see, right? So a lot of students said they really liked it. Some said, hey, it was fine, it was good. And then some students were like, all right, it was just kind of a thing that I checked the boxes off, right? And that's fine, right? But what you'll notice about this is that nobody said they strongly disliked it, and nobody said they disliked it, right? So that just means that they got what they needed out of it, and a lot of students liked it and they enjoyed it. And then the other one is, how do these credits transfer, right? So how do these credits transfer to other programs? So again, these are my seniors from last year. So the blue shows that all the credits transferred, right? All or most of the credits transferred, which is like, that's about 70% of about 65% of the students, which is great. 22 said some, right? So they took some of the credits. Yellow is no credits. That was one student, and she did underwater welding. And they don't care about your associate's degree when you're under the water and you've got a high pressure around you and stuff like that. And then 2 of the students were satisfied with their associates and weren't going to continue with their college after the fact. So they emphasized their vocation after the fact. So for them, the associate's degree complemented what they were doing in shop pretty well. So, frequently asked, I know that you have questions, and we'll get to that in a second, but these are some questions that I get asked all the time. Can I do both dual enrollment classes and after-school activities like sports and clubs? The short answer is yes, but it's hard. So I do have students who are in juniors who are in the full-time program right now. They do football, they do basketball, they do track, they do cheer, they do soccer. So a lot of them have found a way to balance it, but you have to kind of plan these things in advance, right? So it's difficult because the classes meet after school at the same time. They often interfere with sports and other activities, and attendance is also required in college-level classes. So what we've seen some other students do is that they've taken a sport in the spring, but then they've taken after-school classes in the fall, or vice versa, right? Or they take classes on their own time during the summer to catch up. If you see us before you register yourself, obviously, because we can get you a discount. And obviously, if you take classes in the summer, you pay for them. So that's something to keep in mind. Then some coaches are kind of accommodating for us, right? So they say, yeah, well, that's great, you want to do that. You can show up to some meets and you show up to some practices, right? But that's not every single coach, right? And don't blame your coach, right? Like they need you to show up to meets, they need you to show up to practices and games. So not all coaches are going to allow this, but I have seen some students who have talked to their coaches and they've kind of worked things out. And like sometimes if like you've got an important game and your professor, you can talk to your professor as well and miss like 1 or 2 classes, right? So it's challenging to do both of them at the same time. I've seen students do it. Again, there's just a lot of good planning. That's why we're having this meeting tonight in March before next year, so you can kind of think about, well, what am I prioritizing, right? And sports are great, and you should definitely do extracurricular activities too. So what if a student wants to withdraw from the program? Like, what's the way out? So we normally recommend that the students try to finish the semester they're in, right? So if you signed up for speech and you're 4 weeks in and you're like, I hate this, then I'm with you there. But at the same time, finish it, right? Because like we've already talked about with withdrawals and failures, it can mess up FAFSA. It's on your high school transcript. It's on your college transcript. So you really need to finish the semester if you do sign up for it, right? My thing is that usually speech is not too difficult. It's awkward, getting up in front of others and making speeches, but it's a very good way of getting used to that type of stuff, right? So finish up the semester as best you can, right? If you join the full-time program and you withdraw, it gets more complicated. So obviously, like, try to get a good handle early on if like this is something that you want to do. Massasoit offers tutoring, so it's free even for our students. You can do online tutoring. You can do in-person tutoring at Massasoit. I know that's challenging to get there sometimes, but you can get tutoring and it's free, right? And also talk to your professor, right? They have office hours, or they have like virtual office hours that you can meet and you can talk to them like, hey, this is my challenging and what should I do for this next paper, right? So there's a lot that you can do to improve your grades. And obviously talk to me, all right? I'm always willing to talk to students, and I've had a lot of students come to me with complaints or have come to me with like issues, and I can at least point you in the right direction. I can't do math, I'm sorry, but I can at least help you with like the history. I can look at papers and help you edit them, right? So I'm willing to help out as much as I can as well. But there's a lot of different like resources that they offer to get you through this. They know you're in high school, but you're still gonna be treated like a college student, so just think of that. How do these college credits transfer to other schools? I kind of showed that in a previous slide. Most state schools are going to take like everything, pretty much every single thing that I've showed you. And then depending on the college or university, some private schools will also take the credits. I can't really, like if you've got a school in mind, like at the top of your head, like this is where I want to go, I probably don't know. One thing that you can even just Google it just to see, hey, like you can write in like the school name and like transfer policy, and then they will tell you how things transfer, right? That's what I recommend starting with. You can also talk to their admissions office, and they can probably give you some information as well. Early college was something that was unknown of like 10 years ago, but as it becomes more popular and it becomes a bigger portion of high schools, I think that colleges are starting to get a bigger understanding of how these programs should be handled. And regardless, even if the credits don't go to a school that transfers for you, you're going to distinguish yourself, right? Because you're doing something that is not normally offered at Southeastern. Yeah, so that makes sense. Where do students have the most difficulty, right? So where are the trouble spots in the program? We see the most withdrawals and low grades at the very beginning of the program. Speech is where I see the biggest struggles for students, believe it or not. And it's it's not necessarily a difficult academic class. Yeah, it's awkward for a high schooler to get up in front of others and make speeches. But I think the biggest problem for students is that they're not used to the absence policy, right? College success, remember that really easy one that I had said at the beginning? They give you 1 absence, right? Because that only meets for half the semester. So they expect you to go every single day to college success. And then the full classes like speech or English composition, they give you 4 absences. And again, for students, that's hard because you've got some people are working an extra job, or they've got a lot of like things that are going on in their life, and so showing up can be very difficult. But that's why we see the failures very early on, because they're just not used to that. And the first semester of early college is overwhelming, but you get used to it pretty quickly. So that's the other part. Is like junior year, that first semester, it's painful, all right, because you're going from the high school setting and you're at Massasoit where you have fewer supports. The teachers aren't as forgiving, and things go at a much faster pace. So that's why junior year, that first semester, if you do the full-time program, that's where like students get really overwhelmed because it's very fast-paced. But at the same time, my seniors, my current juniors, they got used to it. They survived through it, and I think they're better people. They're more adults now, actually. A little bit scary. And so just, I'll open this up to questions after this, but just some last food for thought. So these are some quotes from some seniors who graduated last year. So one student said, "I feel like this is an amazing option for Southeastern students, and I'm grateful every day that I made the choice to do early college high school. I gained a lot of independence, learned an awful lot about college and its subject matter, and made many meaningful friendships. I feel that this program helped shape me into the person I am today, and I'm forever grateful for it. And then I love this program and the step it gave me, as well as the independence that I gained from it. I feel very prepared to start college." So I think that everything else I said is great, right? So we talked about, college credit transferring, it being weighed as AP credit. It's a good way to distinguish self-knowledge, all these high ideals. But at the end of the day, you're gaining the independence that you normally wouldn't gain, right? You're becoming more of an adult when you actually get through this program, because you're making the decisions of how to balance your time, right? What type of decision, what do I do during the day? When I get home, I've got an essay to do and I've got 2 things to do. How do I balance my time around that, right? So you do learn a good amount of this in high school, obviously, and in shop, of course. But I think in early college, it accelerates that process, right? Because you are given pretty much total freedom, not total freedom, but you're given a lot more freedom and you're expected to be responsible with it, right? And as Spider-Man once said, with great freedom comes great responsibility, or something like that. I don't know. Don't ask me Marvel quotes. All right, questions. I'll open it up to everybody right now. I probably confused you all so much, but that's... All right, but it is pretty straightforward. So again, early college, after school classes, free college credit, full-time program, you go to Massasoit, you take the classes there. It's challenging. One thing to keep in mind that I didn't really talk about here is that, so I know Southeastern offers AP classes, so AP are advanced placement classes. You take an AP exam, those are worth college credit too. What should I do? Should they do one or the other? That's a question that we can have a little bit more in your sophomore year. You can still always do dual enrollment, but one thing to keep in mind is that AP classes, I think, are a little bit better for STEM students, so like medical or nursing, just because the math that you get at Southeastern is a little bit better, in my opinion. The math that you get at Massasoit is great. It's very challenging, and it's worth college credit, which is great. But at the same time, the professors they're pretty unforgiving, right? And that's not the fact that they're impossible or nobody passes. Actually, most students do pretty well. But the entire point is that if there might be a conversation to have around staying in the high school as well, right? So of course, I'm trying to promote the program, right? But I also have more than 100 students who applied for the early college program this year between sophomore to junior year. So I also know that you need to have these bigger conversations as well to figure out what's actually best for my student and everything. Cool. Well, we booked it till 7, so we got 10 more minutes. Any other questions? Yeah.
So, part of my ignorance here, but associate's degrees, are they specific to a major, or are all associate's degrees just a general?
No, you are. That's a great question. Yeah, that's excellent. So specifically the degree that you are getting, the associate's degree, is a liberal arts transfer degree, right? So there are different types of associate's degree, right? So there's an associate's degree in business or management, and there's a lot of different associate's degrees, right? Just as there's so many different bachelor's degrees, the associate's degree there's almost an infinite number of them as well, right? The liberal arts transfer degree that you get through us is extremely general, right? So it is not, it doesn't really appease anybody, right? Because it's not specifically like shop oriented, and it's not, but it's meant to kind of like check a lot of boxes, right? The entire point is that if you did go into a medical program, well, you would take care of your liberal arts portion of it, right? So the English composition, the sociology, that type of stuff. But if you were like a business student, or you were going pre-law or something like that, it would, like this program would fulfill a lot of those general requirements as well. So the liberal arts transfer, it's very general, very vague, because we know that we have so many different students coming in this program with different interests and different needs. So obviously, like, this isn't very tailored towards a science path, or this isn't very well tailored toward a very specific technical path. It's something that's very general that will transfer and take care of some college credits for you along the way. Great question. Yes?
In your out in your field, your placement, like sign design or welding or something, you would do the regular school week at the college, and then when you're at your voc week, you're out in your job, but you still have homework. So after you go to work, you come home and you do homework from them.
Yep.
Am I understanding that?
That is right. So yes, there are some students who they do both early college, high school, and they do co-op, right? Where they go to their, like they're employed. Yeah, I don't see them very often because they're very, very busy. But yes, yeah, so you do have some work to do. Now, usually the professors, the way they do, they're familiar with the vocational, like the fact that they are vocational students. So they'll usually give them like a full week to do it. So obviously you probably will have some homework to do after you're done with your job. Most co-op jobs are pretty much done by 3 o'clock anyway, usually within the school schedule. Typically, that's not a guarantee, but most of them do finish around the school schedule. So that way, if you do have homework, you're doing it after 3 o'clock or anything. Plus, you'll have the weekend to do it. So you get very, very busy. I don't know. I don't know when my kids sleep. I think I sleep more than my kids sleep. It's crazy. I've got 2 kids. But yeah, that's a great question. But yeah, at some of these students, I don't see them anymore. But they are able to balance the coursework, and a lot of them do I would say about 2/3 of them do co-op in some regard, or they do clinical or something along those lines. Cool. Anything else? Any other? Yes?
So dual enrollment. Dual enrollment is completely separate from the early college high school.
So dual enrollment, yeah, it's a good question. So dual enrollment, they're technically 2 different words, even though dual enrollment classes are required for early college high school, right? So nope. Yeah, you can take 1 dual enrollment class and be, I'm done. You can take 4, and you can say you're done, right? So if you just do the after-school classes, that's fine, right? There's no requirement to go do the full-time program, right? I might give class preference to the students who are going full-time because they need it for the associate's degree. But at the end of the day, like, if you just want to take 1 class or 2 classes, yeah, that's perfectly fine. You don't have to do the full-time program. You can just do dual enrollment and take those credits. We actually I had 1 student who got accepted to an Ivy League school. They stayed in the high school, and they took AP classes here, and then they did dual enrollment classes after school, right? So, not naming any names, of course, but at the end of the day, like, that's something that happens, right? Where that looks like that helps supplement what you're learning at Southeastern, and you're also getting some college credit along the way, right? So, yeah, so I mean, a lot of my students, like for early college, they also get accepted to like Northeastern. We've got a lot of like Howard University, a lot of really good schools. So there's actually a list on the web. I actually have a website. It's actually off of the main website. I can, if you want it, I can send you a link. But I also put it in my newsletter. But we have like an entire acceptance page of like, where people get into school and everything like that too. But yeah, dual enrollment's great too. If you don't feel like you want to do the full-time program, and you want to have a more typical high school experience, which a lot of students do, you can just do the dual enrollment after school. That's fine too. Cool, great question. Anybody else? We still got like 5 more minutes. Yeah.
AP courses, so you're saying the students should stay in AP courses if they're in there as opposed to taking the early college?
No, so I think that it's a bigger question. So this is something that a lot of my sophomores are struggling with right now, right? So early college is excellent, and you should definitely do it if you feel like you need the college credit, right? There's really 3 things you really need to consider, right? How do you want your academics to look, right? If you want more traditional academics where you have the high school teachers where they're slowly going over things with you, then that's more of the AP route, right? If you feel like you're better with academics that are more fast-paced, then early college is better because you go over more, you are taking more classes, right? Then there's the financial part, which goes to early college, high school, right? Because you're getting the financial, like, the intention of this program, it's to challenge you, but it's also to make sure that there are students who wouldn't normally able to get a college education or afford a college education, get that opportunity early now, right? So obviously there's the financial dimension, there's the academics, and there's just like what you want to do. I have some students who can't stand being in the high school, right? Who do early college because they want that non-traditional, it's still a traditional setting where you're in front of a professor learning, but they want that freedom of not being told, all right, after this class, you have to go to this class, right? So that's what they kind of prefer as well. So there's a lot that you have to kind of consider here. I think those are the 3 big points. There's like, what do you want your academics to look like? Do you want them to be more typical high school? My thing is that it's something, we do have a very good AP program here. We do have very good, I stand by the teachers in this school, they're excellent. But at the same time, we do have this really cool early college program, which I run. So it's difficult, and I think that it's a question that we're still trying to figure out as a high school, is like, are there certain students who should stay here if you are going on a certain pathway? But as of right now, it's open to everybody, and obviously it's something that there's a lot of interest in. You just have to figure out like what is the best path for you going forward. But my thing is that AP, if you are looking for the most challenging curriculum, I would do AP or early college, one of the 2 of them. So I hope that answers it. The thing is with that question is that it's such a good question that there isn't a good answer, because that's something that every student, every family kind of has to talk about and kind of just like figure out what's the best pathway to do. Cool. Yes.
Talk about the AccuPlacer test again. I know you said it was available online. Is it something they can do in advance, like maybe over the summer?
Yep.
Sort of gauge.
Yeah, exactly. You can retake it as many times as you want to, or it's like 2 times a semester. So you pretty much have unlimited times to take it. So obviously, if you pass one test, you don't have to take all 3 of them together. You could just take the reading and writing, and then you could take the math at a later time. But yeah, I would take that. You can take that over the summer for free, just whenever it's convenient for you. Otherwise, we do offer it at Southeastern, like I said, in the fall and in the spring. And it's just if you do want to just get out of class for an hour and take the AccuPlacer, you can do that. But I didn't say that. Yep, actually, just send me an email. It should be, I forget if I put it on the website. Send me an email, that's the best way. And I could just, because there's like a set of, they're not complicated instructions, but it's literally just a couple steps that I send to you in order to just register for the test. But yeah, I would take it now just to see if you can just test in, and that way you don't have to worry about it anymore. Yeah?
And the SATs?
SATs, so SATs is not required for Massasoit, but you are going to need to take the SATs at one point. If you want to go to a competitive 4-year school after Southeastern, regardless if you do early college or not, you're going to need to take the SATs. What's happened in recent years is that for about 10 years, academics was going hard away from SATs, right? We were saying, all right, like students are more than just a test, right? Recent years with AI, now we're not sure what students are doing in the high school anymore. So now it's gone back where SATs is now super important again. So you will take the SATs. That's my recommendation, especially sometimes funding is on the line with that. So I would take the SATs, but wait till your junior year because your math and your reading ability is going to get better until then. Hopefully. Cool, awesome questions. All right, well, nobody's asleep, which is good. Great, any other questions? Oh yeah.
What is an average score on an AccuPlacer? I see you have the thresholds of.
Yeah, the AccuPlacer is a weird test. So the AccuPlacer ranges between 200 to 300. So a 268 is what's required for the math placement. 245 is required for reading, and then a 5 for writing. Most students get the 245 in reading and the 5 in writing. That's actually usually not too bad. I think with most of our students at Southeastern, we typically score around 250 to 260 on the math one. That's challenging. So a lot of students have to take intermediate algebra at one point. But again, you can test. One thing about testing is that you can't because the testing is always going to be a little bit different, the questions are different, you can never really study for these tests, but there are practice tests online which get you used to the format. Or you can just take it, see how you do, and then if you really need to like figure out a way to study, then you can do that as well. And I'm not sure if we're going to run it this time, if we got funding, but I did run an AccuPlacer camp over the summer. So if students are interested in that as well, you can take it then. But I don't know if we're going to offer that, so. Cool. Great questions. All right, well, it's dinner time, right? Or similar, so that's it for today. If you have any other questions, my email is on the back of the general information form, so feel free to send me an email, give me a call if you want to talk more in person to get more information about this. I hopefully haven't scared you totally away from the program. It is a great program, and I hope that you take it seriously. That's it. Thank you.